It's time for the show about the people and the places of the Carolinas with the occasional visitors. In addition to hosting the award-winning syndicated TV show Life in the Carolinas, Carl White writes a weekly syndicated column and now hosts this weekly show, the Life in the Carolinas podcast. Now you can hear the story about the stories. And now, here's your host, Carl White.
Graig Hoffman, great to see you.
Well, thanks for having me, Carl. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Well, we met for the first time not long ago. We'd been connected on LinkedIn for a while.
We have.
We have a lot of common friends, but we met for the first time at a significant history, a piece of history, a piece of racing history. Wait a minute, a piece of American racing history.
No doubt. So that was a special day. As we've worked, countless people have had a hand in this, as everybody has, I like to say, had been pulling at that rope at the same time that stars have aligned. And yes, we met at that historic reopening of North Wilkesboro Speedway just last week.
Wow.
We reopened the gates, hosted fans, and just had a tremendous response from everybody. But again, none of that would have been possible without just a countless list of names and community support from the entire region of Wilkes County.
So you are now the new director.
Yes, sir.
Right, at North Wilkesboro Motor Speedway. Now, you're not new in racing, though. When I looked at your resume, and I'm looking at Bristol, and I'm like, well, he doesn't look old enough to be there that long, because you couldn't have started as a child, so you had to have been an adult when you started. But you've been at Bristol for how long?
Yeah, 24 years now. So I did start, bounced around playing college football and a little bit of pro football, and was fortunate enough to link on with Jeff Bird at the time. And he brought me in, and worked my way up through Bristol Motor Speedway, through a couple different areas, seeing how events are run, and then really settled in these last 20 plus years in the corporate sales world, managing accounts like Bass Pro Shops and Coca-Cola and Busch Beer, with everything that they've got going on at the Speedway. So as this Wilkesboro project started bubbling, it just fit my wheelhouse in so many areas.
Right.
You and I have had the conversation. I am a lover of history. Number one, just history in general was always my favorite subject in school. Just always drawn to it. My mom, she's a curator at the Benjamin Harrison home in downtown Indianapolis. So
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's your mother?
Yes.
So your mother works with Charlie Hyde.
Okay. Yes.
So he's the director.
Yep.
So she's the.
Yep. So my mom's Jane Hoffman. So she's been there probably going on 10 years now, as time just goes in a blur. But
2 months ago we were filming there.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! I may have met your mother.
Yep. So
that's great.
She loves American history, and my dad's a big history buff. Our house growing up was all antique oak furniture and all the old advertising stuff. So just have a love of history that's ingrained with me. My grandfather on my mom's side was a high school football coach. He played sports at Notre Dame in college. Went on to coach Gil Hodges in 4 sports in Petersburg, Indiana. Gil just went into the Baseball Hall of Fame, one of the legendary Brooklyn Dodgers. So again, when I was young and collecting baseball cards, I collected the older stuff, those Brooklyn Dodger cards, the Mickey Mantles, all that from the 50s and 60s, and just was always drawn to that era. Fast forward to my NASCAR career, with that background, just loved the old racing history, loved Junior Johnson and Fireball Roberts and all that. And Jeff Bird, from his days in Winston, had a Junior Johnson photo. It's that last American hero photo, the famous one with the bubble goggles, and you see the reflection in there. And I asked Jeff, I said, I had nothing on my walls in my new office. I said, Jeff, I love this picture. Could I make that the first picture that hangs in my office? And he gave it to me, and it's there still in my Bristol office now. And then that just expanded. When you go into my Bristol office, it's Dale Earnhardt from 1979 and rookie season, winning his first race at Bristol, and just love that historic era of sports and certainly NASCAR as well. So that's played very well into this project.
Sure.
And really, again, suits a lot of passions that I have. I love home renovation and construction. I love setting a vision and trying to see that through. So just from so many different areas, really this project has stoked my fires on many areas.
Well, let's go back in time a little bit. So in those early days, and we'll talk more about that as we go along, but was there a time in the past that you had gotten wind of the previous projects that people have tackled in trying to bring the track back? Were you aware of those things? And then what was that moment when you knew there was actually a credible movement going on?
Yeah, so you look back and as many people do, they see the Speedway when they drive by 421 and they're like, the history of the Speedway, and just always wondered, what if, why, how could we make something work there? And being a Speedway Motorsports team member, those conversations would bubble up, and just it wasn't the right time. You didn't have the right. I keep saying again, the stars aligning, the people pulling on the same rope at the same time. You had momentum in 2010 and 2011,
right?
But that was really just a track rental. That was just a promoter that came in and ran those races without a lot of Speedway Motorsports help and support. And that's what makes this project so much different. While Barry Braun and the XR events team, it's a track rental, and he's promoting those races because there is a established future around that place, and the COVID relief funds and the $18 million restoration. We have a very, very strong interest in wanting to oversee and manage that brand, establish that brand as we move forward. So that's one of my main jobs is to establish myself in the community as a Speedway Motorsports ambassador, but walk alongside Barry and to make sure that the events that he's putting on are up to our standards and what we want to deliver as a race experience for our fans.
So you're beginning to take interest from a standpoint of truly taking ownership as this is our house again.
Exactly.
So before
with the under the Speedway Motorsports umbrella, when you see North Wilkesboro Speedway, on our Speedway Motorsports website. I mean, the globe's attached to that. So yes, very much under the umbrella of Speedway Motorsports.
So for people who are concerned, and there would be many, I've had people call me who saw some things we posted while the first night was going on, and saying, do you really think that this is going to happen? Do you really think they're going to, once they pull the asphalt up for the dirt tracks, how do we know they're going to put more asphalt down? How do we know that's going to happen? I know you've had to hear those questions
certainly.
As well.
The community has been through so much since 1996. I mean, not only the races leaving town, what's happened in the community with industry.
Right.
So it has there is a lot of prove it out there, rightfully so. That we've had to go back and build those relationships, build that trust. I mean, really one person at a time, establish that credibility. Again, a lot of promoters have been in town. Couple put on races in that 2010, 2011 era that didn't end well. And, a lot of other promoters that came in with big promises and big ideas that never got off the ground. So a lot of naysayers out there. Right. And again, rightfully so.
But let me ask you a question. So with a promoter coming in, basically running the track, is it even, or was it even logical to, I don't want to say logical to upset anybody's thoughts because they were involved with the process, but was it ever really a logical assumption to make, or a firm assumption to make, that they would be able to do the things that an owner would do? Because they're two different things.
No, with Barry Braun and the XR events team, what's different there is we have an established relationship with him for several years now. He does events at Bristol, the Bristol Dirt Nationals. He does events in Vegas, in Texas, in Charlotte. So
he's a known commodity.
He's a known commodity, not only in the racing world is I won't even say an upstart. I mean, he's got an established brand now,
right?
But he's got a established track record with Speedway Motorsports. So that is where that arm in arm, hand in hand relationship comes in. It's not somebody that we didn't have a track record with, so it's very easy. Barry and I, we work so well together. We see things a lot of the same way. We're in lockstep on that. So just could not credit his team enough for the role that they've played in this. These races would not be possible without Barry Braun and the XR Events team.
Greg, I can't help but to imagine that with what you just said, it wouldn't have been possible. But when you see, from an ownership standpoint, when you see a complete sellout, for night one, and you see the excitement of night two, and then you see the social media activity, you see the TV activity.
We trended #1 on Twitter last week.
I mean, that has to raise the bar when you have your post meetings and you're talking with, Marcus Smith, and you're talking to other team members. Has it elevated that conversation?
Most definitely. There was, again, a lot of prove it leading into that first event, and so much that had to get done. Again, that place from 2011, it was still a fairly usable facility. There weren't many areas that weren't being utilized, from suites to buildings to concession stands.
Right.
And from 2011 until here these last few months, I mean, those buildings just got in such disrepair.
Right.
That's when we had to go back and do a lot of that demo to safe the facility up.
Sure.
But still keep as much of that integrity and the we said earlier before camera, that reverence of that place.
Of course.
So had to keep that spirit and aura and reverence intact as we made that facility safe, and open the doors to the fans one more time before we go into that renovation next year.
So it is going to happen.
It is going to happen. Yes, absolutely.
So that will be great news for a lot of people, I'm sure. Let's talk about this preservation of history. In the seat you're setting last year was Jennifer Furr. She is the director of the Wilkes Heritage Museum. And we were talking about everything, history. And there's an exhibit in the museum, I'm sure you've seen.
Fantastic.
The Junior Johnson exhibit. We talked about the track, right? And we just in conversation, because we both love history, she professionally and I from my standpoint. And I said, wouldn't it be interesting if there was some type of a museum type experience for people to have when they go to the track, when this does happen? And I believe it would happen. So, and now it has. So talk about that.
That will be a big component. Not only the track history, but what's going on with the state and the Moonshine Heritage Trail. Will be a big part of that project, as that story's told across all of Wilkes County, all that history and heritage from the moonshine industry. Again, the roots of stock car racing were in that moonshine heritage. That's where North Wilkesboro Speedway started. Enoch and his partners going out and grading that field for, Enoch to have Gwen, his brother, race out there against these moonshiners and see who had the fastest car. And lo and behold, they expected a few thousand people to show up, and that number that I always heard was 10,000 people showed up. And lo and behold, here last week, we were hoping for a good crowd. We thought we were gonna have a good crowd, but then again, all of Wilkes County shows up with that magic number of 10,000 fans, and lo and behold, history repeats itself.
Wow. So you're saying now, on this moment in time that we're together in our little shrine here, so you're saying now, and you're confirming the fact that this type of racing did in fact start in Wilkes County around a group of moonshiners.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, this Ronald Queen, our legendary friend there at the Speedway, who has just dedicated his life to get this track back and going, and just have the honor to step alongside him as he's got this operation moving. He said, with him and his history with Junior Johnson, the roots of North Wilkesboro Speedway run so deep you can't dig them out. So that's the genesis of North Wilkesboro Speedway. That's the genesis of the heritage of the sport. When you look at the foundations, North Wilkesboro Speedway was on the original NASCAR schedule. North Wilkesboro Speedway predates the formation of NASCAR.
Right.
1947, first race. Won by Fonnie Flock in the old purple Easter egg.
Right.
About that same time, Bill France seniors,
Right.
around the Southeast saying, hey, we need to find a way to regulate this, get consistent payouts, get promoters, all with the same set of rules, regulate this, and it could just be so much better for the growth of stock car racing. So, that's going around in 47, 48, formation of NASCAR. And you've got the Daytona meeting that gets so much credit and recognition, but there was a very important precursor meeting that happened here in downtown Wilkesboro,
and the whole hotel
at the old hotel.
That's right.
That is now Dooley's.
That's right.
Seth Cohn had the privilege of getting a tour there a few weeks ago, and just again, you want to talk about spirit and aura. You can see that room set up there where all that took place. All those same players that had that historic meeting in Daytona, it all happened there as they set the rules of what they were going to get voted in Daytona. So just with all that being said, from the moonshine heritage to the track history to the formation of NASCAR, North Wilkesboro Speedway was at the forefront of the formation of NASCAR. It was the last race on that very first schedule. North Wilkesboro Speedway and Martinsville are the two oldest tracks in existence, and everything else on that original schedule is non-existent. You want to talk about the Daytona Beach course, gone to certainly the Super Speedway and on down the list. Martinsville and North Wilkesboro are the only two tracks still standing.
Can you imagine that there would be, as we move forward, as you get the new track down, can you imagine that there's going to be a list of drivers that want to drive here?
I mean, we're already seeing it, just of people that we knew that were going to be in attendance. Kevin Harvick was there. Dale Jr., of course, was there last week. Then the drivers themselves, the Ryan Newman, Bobby Labonte, Ryan Preece. I was walking at the end of the last race, had to go back to my office and was walking back in the main gates. Noah Gragson. We didn't even know that Noah was going to be there.
Right.
Kerry Earnhardt was there. We didn't know Kerry was going to be there. They just bought seats in the grandstands to go check it out. So countless other people that we probably don't even know were there last week that just wanted to go see history being made and just see what all the hype about North Wilkesboro Speedway was all about.
Did you ever imagine, with your background in sports, with your background in the development side, working with sponsors, working with making it happen financially, did you ever imagine that you would be a curator as well?
And it's funny, I think it's my mom's past, but I use that, I use that term because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing at the Speedway. It's a caretaker, it's a curator. You're really trying to embrace that history and make sure that it's done and restored, revived in the right way. So yeah, it's funny you use that term because that's exactly what I view that role to be.
Great. I'm sure Jennifer Furr will serve as an advisor for you.
Well, we could use all the help we can get. Absolutely.
As an official curator. So let's talk about that trajectory of how you're going to move forward with messaging. And let's start by your first sponsor. I mean, to have Call Family there, to have Brian and his wife there, and with Brian's dad's connection with Junior Johnson, which is irrefutable. I mean, they were real good friends. So talk about the significance of having them there in the very beginning.
Yeah, it was, as Brian and I got to know each other, I just felt that was just paramount to that first event. And again, everything we just talked about the heritage of the moonshine in this region, that was the perfect fit. So Brian and I had the conversations, and just you go back in where his brand is, how he's established the brand, built the brand around that family name, everything that his dad did in this region, the uncatchable, right?
Right.
And he and Junior and all the history there. And then you go back further, in the family tree there.
7 generations.
To the Reverend
Right.
who taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey, got called back to the church, and then Jack Daniels went on to do his thing in Lynchburg, Tennessee, as he moved back to Wilkesboro, and again, then now the family lineage is here in Wilkes County. So just such a rich history there, such a great story to tell. Just to wrap our arms around that and have them embrace their brand and trust in us. But no better first partner that we could have chosen than the Call family.
Let's go back in time a little bit, back to Bristol and your work on the development side. So you're going to begin that work here in North Carolina now. I'm sure it's already well in play now. But as that development person, and you're still going to do some of that here, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do in that capacity? I understand that you've got to bring in the sponsors. You've got to get your partners in play, right? Talk about how that all happens.
So, I mean, that's certainly the fans are the lifeblood, but sponsors are right there, right neck and neck with that. So to get that all told, we went out and, majority of these businesses are all local. And they had a belief in the Speedway, the Call family. You've got then established heritage brands like Coca-Cola that has such a deep history here. When you see all the old photos and the track walls and the ghost sign there as you walk in the main gate that's got North Wilkesboro Speedway and Coca-Cola to the old hand painted concession stand. So they were one that wanted.
So what was that call like? Let's take that one for a moment. I'm just on the other end of the phone. I'm over here at Coca-Cola, and I'm hearing this call coming from someone telling me about something from the past is coming back.
So again, thankfully, Coca-Cola's got such a strong. I mean, they are our largest partner throughout Speedway Motorsports. Coca-Cola 600. The official soft drink of all of our speedways. So we've got such great relationships there. And so that was an easy call to make, and they believed in our purpose and passion. They've seen the renderings and the restoration that were announced earlier this year in January. So they've been on board with that vision. So, I showed them a couple of concept drawings of what the track walls and, the old patina of the North Wilkesboro Speedway that we did not touch. And those Coca-Cola logos flank that. Just such a calling card of the history of North Wilkesboro Speedway. You've got pictures of Junior Johnson crossing the finish line, Richard Petty, on down the list of Jeff Gordon, and those Coca-Cola signs flank that start-finish line.
So it was a perfect fit. Then.
Yeah, absolutely perfect fit. But that's where we wanted to call in those heritage brands. Busch Beer, our friends there. Such a long legacy and history in the sport. They jumped right on board. But then again, it's all these. Both they're regional. The regional Coca-Cola folks. The regional Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev distributor, RH Behringer. So then you had all these local companies that, again, had a belief in us.
I saw some very recognizable signs. I was like, there's Campbell Roofing.
Absolutely.
And then IGA, and then the oil company.
So Raymer Oil, again, from day one, Matthew Redmond, Keith Huffman were big believers in this project. They are sponsoring our Speedway Children's Charities Track Lap program the weekend before the Dale Jr. race. Fans will be able to come and get 3 laps around the track, and then Dale Jr.'s race will take place, and then that'll be the last opportunity on that asphalt. That asphalt, believe it or not, last time that was paved was 1981.
Wow.
So that track has seen a lot of history, and nobody thought that track would be raceable. You look at pictures over the last 10 plus years and weeds growing up through there, and once that effort led by Marcus Smith and Dale Earnhardt Jr., they went in to scan that track for iRacing, was again a huge monumental step in where we are today. So go back, the track's been crack filled. The drivers just continue to remark at how smooth the racetrack is and how raceable it is.
And that's part of the excitement. It's like she lives on, right?
Absolutely. And in every way, shape, or form, we were very intentional about not touching too much of the speedway. Very intentional to show the fans what the current condition of the track is. From peeling paint on the buildings to the old retro Winston signs. We were very intentional. We wanted to safe the place up, but really not touch it as much as we can to make it to truly make it a snapshot in time.
And that's going to remain that way, right?
So as we go into the restoration, it'll be a very fine balance. It will appear, again, that aura will have to remain. So very, very attention to detail. When you talk about going into a theme park or somewhere that's got an old theme to it, I just went to Dollywood a few weeks ago, and you go in there and you go into a Bass Pro Shops, and they're very intentional about the look and feel. So it has to be that way with some modern amenities, with some concession stands and things of that nature, but the look and feel and aura of the Speedway has to be the same as it is now.
Well, does your ownership group own anything like that? What it's going to be, what the plans are showing now? Is there another comparison anywhere else?
There's really not. Within our portfolio of companies, I mean, you think of, a Las Vegas Motor Speedway, even a Bristol. A Bristol has a long, heritage, built in 1961, but it's a modern facility. It's all been redone since the 90s, and the current bowl configuration it is now. So, all the Atlantas and Charlottes, they're all modern day racetracks, more modern day speedways. So there's nothing in our portfolio that's like North Wilkesboro Speedway.
What's the biggest challenge you have now?
I don't know if there's necessarily a challenge. It's really not getting comfortable and resting on that success that we had last week. Always continuing to raise the bar. You always have to try to exceed expectations of our fans. So just not a rinse and repeat. Make sure that, Bruton Smith always had a saying, inspect what you expect. So don't rest on your laurels. Always continue to raise the bar. Always find those touch points and try to make those special memories for fans. Always go that extra mile when you go to deliver that, because that's what this is all about. It's about having fun and having our fans make memories, reliving those memories. I mean, just countless stories as I talk to fans these last few months and these last few weeks of just everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a memory of that place, of going there with their dad or their papaw, getting out of school on a Friday to go see qualifying. I sat in this seat. And so it's letting people relive that. But then also what is so exciting is that they all have kids and grandkids that they're able to bring to the Speedway and relive those memories, create new memories, create a whole new generation of fans for North Wilkesboro Speedway.
So race business is show business.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. We don't control what happens inside the walls on the racetrack. I mean, that's where the competition and the series. But everything outside the walls, from the fan experience, absolutely. To try to deliver that in the absolutely best way possible to make those memories, but then also race fans wanting to come back again.
Graig, when we were filming, I talked to a lot of people, and what was striking to me is the generations of people who were there. People that were there as a child, are now much older. And one gentleman, he was there, and his son was 68. right? And then his son, you know, was 42.
Grandson.
You know, so I saw this. I saw one gentleman, I forget the guy's name, but he was the guy with the beard and didn't have his shirt on.
Yep.
So I saw.
He was our best cheerleader last week.
It was fantastic. You have to have someone like that to celebrate. But he saw a friend, and we had one of our cameras set up, and he was coming up and just, you know, greeting people, and because he would spend time out at the bottom, but he would come up, and he spotted one of his old buddies, which they were younger when they knew each other, but he's waving, and his friend that was next to our camera, he does this. He says, "I can't hear you." Because he was wearing a hearing aid, he couldn't hear it. So I watched this unfold, and I was like, wow. And so this guy keeps yelling louder and coming, and he didn't go up, or he crawls over people, as I saw many people do. So he's crawling over people, and everybody was having fun with it. And this one lady, as he passes her, and this is the only person I saw do this, and he was doing it because he was trying to reach his friend. But everybody else was smiling. And then he comes across this one lady, and he's just stepping over. But he kind of leans, and so his beard touches her head. And then she had this look on her face that's like, what? Where's he from? And then her husband said something. She laughed too, you know. But he finally made it over to his friend, and it was just such a wonderful little moment between these two guys that have clearly lived a long life, and they're celebrating a thought of when they were children. And what a great thing.
Yeah, it's such a legacy, and so many memories, and so many I almost say pent up emotion, you know, because it was an outpouring. I mean, I saw fans literally in tears when that green flag dropped for the first time. So just such an honor to be working on this project, and to be able to deliver these memories for our race fans, and something that they can continue to come out and support North Wilkesboro Speedway and make new memories.
Okay, let's do some crystal ball work now, and let's project forward. So we know a track's coming. So what's it going to be like when the new track comes down in 23, right? And those races start to happen, and moving forward, kind of project for us where you see things going.
Yeah, still a lot of unknown. 2023 will be a construction renovation year, so you're really probably talking 2024 at that point.
Right.
So, you know, from the renderings, I mean, again, it's going to be a track that is very much North Wilkesboro Speedway. You know, there'll be some new suites and modern amenities there, but again, a very attention to detail to deliver that same profile that the suites there that exist now are in. I mean, a lot of that same steel structure that those are on are there, and it's literally just a matter of placing those new structures back on top.
Right.
And then, you know, the front stretch grandstand, it's gonna stay at those seats that are there that are iconic. And then you talk into the turn 1 and 2 grandstand. Everybody loves that because it's right on top of Highway 421.
Right.
So, you know, that's gonna be where this facility exists in the near future with those turn 1, 2 grandstands and that front stretch grandstand. You know, the track itself is going to be, I mean, the iconic uphill downhill. Certainly, you know, that's untouchable.
Right.
The iconic victory lane with the lift now reworking. All those race winners got the honor to ride that. Ryan Newman's victory lane celebration.
Right.
You know, he honored Benny and Terry Parsons with that win. Again, you talk about people that just, you could not have this project be where it is without them and their love, trust, and support. And Ryan dedicated that win, but how cool was it that Ryan and all the experiences he's had in racing got to ride that elevator, and just was so captivated by that right here in, you know, Wilkes County, North Wilkesboro Speedway. You know, we have that elevator that the winners can ride up. So just as you talk about what we're going to preserve, all those iconic moments and architecture. But again, when you look back at our sponsor signage and when we really get that overall plan, it's gonna have that historic look and attention to detail.
When you sit there at the track and you look and you see the vistas, you know, as the sun was going down, or you know, you're in this unique place, aren't you?
Yeah, this valley, and you're surrounded by the brushy mountains. My mind goes back to those ESPN shots of the broadcast, and Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett up on top of that TV booth,
right,
and purposely built that on the roof there so they'd have that vista of those mountains in the background as they open those broadcasts. So that's where my mind goes when you see those. And just, you know, while they raced some night racing in 2010, 2011, you know, it was some heat racing. They had unfortunate weather, so they didn't get a race in at night. Heat racing, practice qualifying. But so as you go back and plan this, we're having to think of things for the first time.
Sure.
That first night in Victory Lane, you know, as it's getting dark. We need some more lights up here. Scrambled, got some light towers up there, solved the problem very quickly thanks to our just amazing operations team. Reacted quickly, moved some light towers around, got that problem solved. But even you know, all these races have always been during the day. And when you know, leaving the racetrack safely, getting back to your car in a dark field, you know, out there. So, you know, you have to bring in all that temporary lighting, that you just have to think through things in a different perspective than the way they were done in the past, because we're racing all these races at night. So
there are logistics that will be incorporated, I'm sure, in the new design, if you will, and some additions. In 2024, what type of racing will we see?
Again, a lot up in the air, but you know, Marcus has made this public that, you know, it would be great to have something like a truck race in there, you know, a NASCAR touring series, and then, you know, a lot of the same stuff we're running now, but even more so than the racing, a multi-purpose venue.
Talk about that.
So from music and concerts and festivals to car shows to everything that we can do to make that a multi-purpose venue. When you look at the state of that racetrack, and we were referencing earlier in the interview about the perception of Wilkes County, the town and the county takes on that persona of the racetrack in a dilapidated state. So to be able to go back and restore that, to make that a true symbol of pride that everybody can rally around, and for us to be able to offer that up, and not only, again, racing, but other events where fans can come out to the Speedway and be part of everything that's going on out there. And then as we establish things like Speedway Children's Charities, to be able to go back out and help the entire community of Wilkes County, that is what, again, stokes a lot of my passion, is when we can reestablish that place and give this sense of pride that this community deserves.
I think that's important to acknowledge, because stories that we've done over the past years, we've done some things with your charity programs, but maybe everybody doesn't know what goes on from that give standpoint, because it's not just come and buy tickets or come and sponsor something. There is that side of significant service.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Bruton established Speedway Children's Charities when he unfortunately lost a child to SIDS.
Right.
And so he established that in Charlotte, raising money for children's-based charities in the Charlotte region. And so then every other speedway that has come under the fold of Speedway Motorsports all has a chapter of Speedway Children's Charities. So, you know, in Charlotte they do galas and events around the race. In Bristol, you know, our main fundraiser is Speedway and Lights. So all those proceeds that are generated, you know, whatever speedway it is, all stay in that local community and go to children's-based charities.
So you can speak about that from your past in Bristol, because you've been there long enough. How has that activity, that charitable outreach, how has that impacted the community there?
Oh, when you think about it, it's been more than 25 years now. I think we're going on closer to 30, and Speedway and Lights has been in there about, I think we're in our 25th, 26th year. These last several years, especially, and the last 10 plus, I mean, you're approaching $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year. We hit $1 million that year. We had the football game,
right.
And again, that all stays in those local surrounding communities around Bristol. I believe there's 18 surrounding counties.
Right.
You apply for a grant if you're a children's-based charitable organization. You apply for a grant, and then our board of directors selects the amounts and what goes to those children's-based charities. And then we have a special night. Right around it's the night before the opening event. We call it the Night of Smiles, and Claudia Bird and the representatives from Speedway Children's Charities give those grant checks out. And you want to talk about an emotional night? Claudia calls it the best night of the year.
Right.
That is when you truly see the impact that those events that we all work so hard to put on, we're able to truly give that money back to those charitable organizations, and then they go make a difference in the community.
So, if I hear you right, doing that 1 year, it has an impact, but then doing it year after year after year after year.
You play that out over the course of almost 30 years, and just you want to think about the impact that makes. Again, it's not just 1 year. We are doing that, and that's not only Bristol. That is all of our racetracks. So think of the reach and the impact that Speedway Children's Charities makes across the country.
So that will be something that will happen at the North Wilkesboro Speedway.
So already plans. Again, that track lap program that's going to kick off here in a few weeks. In Bristol, when we covered the track in dirt last year and this past year, we partnered with our moonshine partner there in Bristol. They donated jars. We filled those jars with inaugural dirt race, dirt from the track, and sold those for $25. And all those proceeds were for Speedway Children's Charities. So we're partnering with Brian Call and the Call family to do that same thing. So when we mill up the asphalt on the track, we'll get that jarred up.
Look at that.
Yep. And then we'll sell those, and then when we come back and race in dirt in October, we'll jar up the dirt so you can get a 2-pack, an asphalt and a dirt.
Fantastic piece of history.
So a piece of history, a souvenir.
Helping the charities.
And helping Speedway Children's Charities and the youth here in Wilkes County.
Well, Greg, you're a good egg. That's good stuff.
Well, absolutely, and those are just the first couple of wins. Again, as we establish again ourselves in the community, that will be a major focus of what we're doing here at the racetrack.
I know you love the history aspect. But are you really genuinely excited about the future for this and your involvement?
Yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, we're just getting started on this. We're going back and celebrating that legacy, but there's again so much history to be made in the future. As you go in and you reopen with a whole new sense of excitement, with the challenges that we've all overcome for many years to get us to where we are now, and then in the short term, these last 4, 5, 6 months, I tell the story. It's like going into an abandoned building and trying to host a party for 10,000 people when you didn't have electricity until 2 weeks ago. You didn't have you don't have sewer running water. So just to go back and try to upfit an abandoned building to be able to host it, that is the challenges now that you look back and the things that we've done to overcome to be able to open those gates and host those race fans again. So when we go back to restore the facility, to have those, I say modern amenities with that old vintage feel, just excited to continue on the project and see where this goes over the course of the next year and a half.
So you're just getting started, but if we do the analogy between the TV show, what is it? Are you going to keep it or list it?
Love it or list it.
Love it or list it. So Greg, here you have the North Wilkesboro Speedway, and Are you going to love it or list it?
We are going to love it.
Yeah.
Love it from the bottom of our hearts. It is you can't get any more historic, any more true to the roots of stock car racing than North Wilkesboro Speedway. So absolutely love it.
So it's going to be a fantastic ride. I have to ask you one more thing, because you invoked his name earlier, but I want you to talk for a moment about what it's like working with Ronald Queen.
Ronald is my absolute brother. To call him my right hand is not do that any justice. You know, I'm still a dual role, still Bristol and North Wilkesboro. Mm-hmm. Ronald is here day in, day out, and again, he's given his life for these last couple years, especially this past year since January, to this project. Mm-hmm. He's the one that's taken the reins. He's the one that's in the community. As I try to get established in the community, I'm walking in Ronald's hip pocket as I get to know everybody, and you know, he's pointing me in the right direction on who to meet, who to talk to. But Ronald just serves such an important role there. I mean, again, just cannot thank him. I tell him every day how thankful I am for him and his passion and love and support. We could not do this without him.
Wow. Well, Graig, the journey has begun. We have many more stories to tell and share. We've started chatting with people and about their memories, and I think it'd be a great project for us just to kind of follow along, and maybe we'll just kind of do maybe a documentary special about this whole thing for broadcast, because so many people, it's not just a story, it's almost like it's in the fiber.
It is the fiber. Everybody has ownership in that place. You know, it's another motto of us in Speedway Motorsports. We work for the fans. So the fans have those memories. They have that ownership of that place. So again, it's our job to be able to deliver the experiences for those fans that they can relive and then also make new ones.
All right. Well, I guess what do they say? Let's go racing.
Absolutely. We'll be racing here this weekend, and then Dale Jr.'s race the end of the month, and we will the response coming off the successful first race, the Dale Jr. race the end of the month, Window World 125 will officially be announced here, and maybe by the time we're done with this interview.
Right.
So the excitement that came off that opening week for that event coming up is just through the roof. So you can still get your tickets. There's still tickets to be had. You jump online, northwilkesborospeedway.com.
Yes.
$15. And you can bring a cooler. It's free parking. We've got all kinds of concession deals, $2 waters and Coke products, $3 Anheuser-Busch beers. Get your Busch Light, bring a cooler. Keith Huffman at Raymer Oil has got his hot dog wagon out there. $5 hot dog chip and a Coke. $5.
Yeah, that's right.
Best deal in motorsports. So hands down, we wanted, again, as a thank you, as a kudos to the race fans, we wanted to deliver that to create that best experience possible. So again, free parking, low ticket price, and low price concessions. So get your tickets and just hope to see everyone out at the racetrack.
Yeah, sounds great, Graig. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Been a privilege. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for listening to the Life in the Carolinas podcast. If you enjoyed your time with us, please visit the show's website at lifeinthecarolinas.com. Join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated every week on what we have coming up and other interesting things around the Carolinas. We value you as a podcast subscriber. We'll see you next week. And remember what Carl says, it's never a bad time for a good story.